Made the scapegoat after Ferrari put an embarrassing car on the grid, Italian journalist Leo Turrini has backed Lewis Hamilton to prove he still got it. Former F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone has renewed his criticism of Lewis Hamilton, claiming it was not the right decision for Ferrari to sign him for the F1 2025 season. How Lewis Hamilton is preventing perfect Hollywood F1 2025 season. You thought the biggest threat to Lewis Hamilton's season at Ferrari came from the lack of pace in the car. What if I told you the real pressure might now be coming from a man who once controlled the entire fate of Formula One, Bernie Ecclestone? This could change everything. Because Ecclestone didn't just criticize Ferrari's decision to sign Hamilton, he also hinted at one of the most controversial contract clauses ever seen at Maranello. And if that clause is real, Hamilton could hold a kind of power no Ferrari driver has ever had before. Here are the facts. Hamilton joined Ferrari in 2025 in one of the most seismic transfers in F1 history, leaving Mercedes after more than a decade. But so far, the partnership has delivered no podiums for the Brit, while Charles Leclerc has already put the team in the top 3 5 times. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, Hamilton qualified only 12th, watched Leclerc take pole, and called himself useless over the radio. A day later in Budapest, he dropped a hint. There's a lot going on in the background that's not great. Ecclestone heard it and fired back, calling Hamilton a little bit political, something he says is typical of Ferrari and typical of him. But the real bomb came from Italian media reports. Hamilton may have an exclusive right to extend his deal to 2027, regardless of results. Ferrari would have no power to block it. If true, this changes the entire power dynamic inside the team. It would mean that even if Ferrari wanted to make room for another driver in 2027, Hamilton stays if he wants to. In a sport where contracts are usually balanced between driver and team, this sets a dangerous and powerful precedent. It could shape how Ferrari makes technical decisions, sets priorities, and even manages Leclerc. And here's where the tension builds. Ecclestone says Hamilton could come to life again and return to the top, but also suggests that if there's no improvement soon, an early split could happen. In that case, he advises Hamilton to demand full payment of his contract to walk away. Picture the atmosphere in Maranello, an F1 icon with absolute control over his future, struggling to deliver while his teammate racks up results. This is more than just about points or podiums. It's about a 7-time world champion with 103 wins in nearly 2 decades at the very top, trying to write one final epic chapter with the most iconic team in Formula One. Ferrari didn't just sign a driver, they signed a symbol, a brand, a living piece of history. If he can turn this around, it won't just be a win, it will be a historic milestone. But what if he doesn't? What if Ferrari's internal politics swallow Hamilton like they have so many champions before him? What if that contract clause becomes a burden for both sides? What if Ecclestone is right about the fatigue and the need for a total reset? Will Hamilton silence the critics, Ecclestone included, and turn this turbulent start into the most spectacular comeback modern F1 has ever seen? Or will we witness the end of his journey in the sport sooner than expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Hamilton fight to the very end for the turnaround, or consider closing the Ferrari chapter before it's too late? You thought Lewis Hamilton's struggles at Ferrari were a sign that his best days were behind him. What if I told you some believe he's not the problem at all, but the scapegoat for one of the most disappointing cars Ferrari has put on the grid in years? This could change everything, because one of Italy's most respected motorsport voices, Leo Turrini, has publicly defended Hamilton. And in doing so, he's pointed the finger straight at Ferrari, calling their 2025 car embarrassing and the criticism aimed at Hamilton ridiculous. Here's the full picture. Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari was one of the biggest shocks in modern Formula One, leaving Mercedes just months after signing a new 2-year deal, exercising a rare exit clause to make the move. It came after Ferrari had shown promising pace in the second half of the previous season, winning 3 races and pushing McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. Expectations for 2025? Sky high. Reality? Brutal. Ferrari has yet to win a single race this year. The team has 5 podiums, all scored by Charles Leclerc, and sits second in the standings, but an eye-watering 299 points behind McLaren. Hamilton's individual stats have been even tougher to swallow. No podiums, frequent qualifying struggles, and 2 races before the summer break where he openly called himself useless and even suggested Ferrari should probably change drivers. To Turrini, the narrative blaming Hamilton is wrong. He says it's foolish to deny Hamilton's legendary past, but in the present, he's dealing with a car unworthy of his talent, a teammate who's quicker right now, and a team that has under-delivered in every measurable way. In his words, making him a scapegoat for a Scuderia that in 14 races has scored less than half of McLaren's points is not wrong. It's ridiculous. And this isn't just about Hamilton's season. It's about the shape of the entire championship. Ferrari's inability to compete has left McLaren with a near uncontested path to dominance. It has also reshuffled the competitive order, giving Mercedes a clearer target and making Red Bull's transition to 2026 slightly less pressured. For Ferrari, the longer Hamilton is seen as the problem instead of the car, the more internal resources may be misdirected, and that could set them back for years. Inside Maranello, there's a growing tension. Leclerc is delivering results, Hamilton is not, and yet Turrini and others argue that both are fighting with the same flawed machinery. Hamilton's candid radio messages and social media posts reveal a man frustrated but determined, vowing to reset, recharge, and come back stronger after the summer break. The question is, will Ferrari's leadership treat him as a partner in fixing the crisis or as the convenient face to blame for it? Because this goes beyond a single season. Hamilton's move to Ferrari was about legacy, about chasing a final, defining chapter in the most famous red car in the world. He's not just a 7-time world champion with 103 wins. He's a driver who changed the sport's culture, inspired a generation, and is still hungry to prove himself at 40 years old. If he turns this around, it would rank alongside the greatest comebacks in motorsport history. But the risks are real. What if the summer break doesn't bring the breakthroughs Hamilton needs? What if Ferrari's internal politics, technical misfires, and public pressure combine to push him out before he can prove anything? And what if Turini's defense is a minority voice, drowned out by a global narrative ready to declare the end? Will Hamilton silence the critics, take Turini's backing, and use it as fuel to rewrite the story of his Ferrari debut season? Or will 2025 go down as the year the Scuderia's mistakes were pinned on the wrong man? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Is Hamilton being unfairly targeted, or is there more he needs to prove before the season ends? You thought the 2025 Formula One season was already one for the history books? 7 different drivers on the podium, 5 different pole sitters, a title fight swinging back and forth with every race? What if I told you the only thing stopping it from being a perfect Hollywood season is Lewis Hamilton's struggles at Ferrari? This could change everything. Because if Hamilton finds form, 2025 could go from great to unforgettable. That's the view of former F1 driver David Coulthard, who says the grid has delivered drama, parity, and spectacle, but Ferrari, and especially Hamilton, have been the missing piece. Let's lay it out. Ferrari came into 2025 tipped alongside McLaren to challenge Max Verstappen for the World Championship. But while McLaren came out swinging, Lando Norris winning the season opener in Australia, Ferrari, and Hamilton in particular, failed to rise to the occasion. Hamilton's early complaints about the SF25's behavior soon gave way to self-criticism. By Hungary, it reached its low point. Over team radio, Hamilton said Ferrari probably needed to change driver because he was useless, absolutely useless. Even a glimmer of excitement in the sprint was snuffed out when Ferrari was disqualified from the main race. Meanwhile, McLaren's internal battle has become the season's main storyline. Norris started strong with a win and 4 straight podiums. Oscar Piastri countered with 3 victories, taking the championship lead. They clashed in Canada, literally, when Norris ran into the back of Piastri, but instead of imploding, the team recovered with a string of 1-2 finishes. Heading into the summer break, Norris sits just 9 points behind his teammate, both looking like worthy champions. This isn't just about Hamilton's personal form, it's about the balance of the entire championship. If Ferrari, and Hamilton in particular, were delivering wins, McLaren's dominance would be under constant threat. That would mean an even tighter 3-way fight between McLaren, Red Bull, and Ferrari, elevating the championship to an all-time classic. Instead, Ferrari's underperformance has left the McLaren civil war as the season's defining battle. Inside Ferrari, the pressure is mounting. Leclerc has scored all 5 of the team's podiums, while Hamilton remains winless. McLaren's rise makes the contrast even sharper. 2 drivers pushing each other to the limit, managed with precision. Coulthard says McLaren's title bid might be a once-in-a-lifetime shot, and they're seizing it. For Hamilton, the question is whether Ferrari's structure and his own adaptation can flip his season before it's too late. This was supposed to be Hamilton's Hollywood chapter, the 7-time world champion in Ferrari red, chasing a final storybook victory. A man with 103 race wins, nearly 2 decades at the top, aiming to cement his place as not just the greatest of his era, but a champion who conquered F1's most iconic team. If he can turn this around, it won't just complete the season's missing piece. It could become one of the greatest redemption arcs the sport has ever seen. But the risks are real. What if Ferrari can't fix the SF25's weaknesses? What if Hamilton's adaptation takes longer than the season can afford? And what if McLaren, already firing on all cylinders, puts the championship out of reach before Ferrari even wakes up? Will Hamilton find the breakthrough to transform a great season into a true Hollywood blockbuster? Or will 2025 be remembered as the year Ferrari's missing spark left the script unfinished? Drop your thoughts below. Can Hamilton still deliver the ending this season deserves, or has the moment already passed?